Hello everyone, and welcome back to another video. Before I go into this ultimate jackpot of a game, I'd like to truly thank all of you for the support of the last video. It was kind of funny because the night I uploaded that video, I was assuming at least a few people would see it, but it turns out a day later that around the population of my entire school saw it. That's crazy. As well as the fact that at the time of writing the script, I just hit 150 subscribers. So again, thank you all so much, and thanks as well for responding to my polls, which I'll post on frequently now to give everyone updates. Other than that, let's get on to Half-Life 2 at its finest.
How could one man have slipped through your force's fingers time and time again? This is not some highly trained assassin we are discussing. Gordon Freeman is a theoretical physicist who had hardly earned the distinction of his PhD. The man you have consistently failed to slow, let alone capture, is by all standards simply that, an ordinary man. How can you have failed to apprehend him?
To start this video off, I'm just gonna say Half-Life 2 is the best, if not one of the best, single-player video games of all time. Somebody can genuinely argue with me in the comments about something that's better, and even if it might be true, I just simply disagree. There are only a few games that I think are better than Half-Life 2, being... yeah, and that's about it. Okay, look, whether you're a big fan of the Half-Life franchise or not, you have to admit that this game was revolutionary. So many technical and graphical innovations were made. Half-Life 2 changed the gaming scene as we know it. Look, if Snailbob 2 has a reference to Half-Life 3, then you already know you should be taking this seriously. Okay, maybe using Snailbob 2 wasn't that serious of an example, but still, this game has had some sort of influence for a lot of the games you've probably played. No, see, this game is really good, but listening to me saying it's good for the next 10 minutes won't really amount to anything. I'll need to show you the game, and let's not forget beforehand what led up to Half-Life 2. Going back to 1998, we see the release of Half-Life. This game was amazing. I'm sure I've already gone over this before, but let me get into more detail. Instead of a shooting frenzy, the developers also aimed at creating a game that would dive into storytelling and environmental details that added to the experience. And a sequel was in the works literally 6 months after Half-Life released. That sequel, Half-Life 2, would be even more innovative and mind-blowing than its predecessor. Why? Well, the Valve team strived for quality. After Half-Life, the Valve team had a lot in their hands. If they were to make a sequel, it'd be a lot to lead up to something like the original Half-Life, so their goals were beyond what anyone could have imagined. Valve decided to create an entirely new engine, Source, bringing along an integrated physics engine, Havoc. Valve planned on utilizing physics that were never seen before. Breakable objects, stuff you could throw around, different weights. It was amazing to see, and what they went for was a game that relied on physics and the interactivity of the world. Over and over again, the team would work on the game, presenting demos to Gabe Newell over and over again. Gabe Newell kept rejecting these demos, saying that Half-Life 2 could be even better. This cycle went on, and the game went through lots of different phases in its beta years. This time, between 2001 and 2003, had drastic changes in the game's vision. Soon though, the Valve team came to their consensus when they finally found what would make a good sequel to Half-Life. They showed off their work in E3 2003, and to this day, it still seems crazy just how big this game was about to be. I mean, for God's sake, they got a psychiatrist to help them out with the possible face expressions that the characters could do. You didn't see that type of technology a few years earlier. Even today, you have AAA games that still struggle with decent character expressions. They showed off Half-Life 2 to the world. This proved a big boost to the development of the game. They even announced a date for the game's release, September 30th, 2003. Yay for everybody else, but for the dev team, it meant long hours and lots of overtime. It still meant the game would be finished though. No. It wasn't until September 19th, though, when everything would change. Half-Life 2's source code leaked. Now, I don't know if any of you know exactly how devastating a source code leak might be, but it's bad. Like, really bad. A German hacker got a hold of the source code and saw the entire game of Half-Life 2 at an extremely unfinished state. This copy of the game would be given to the public, showing just how unfinished Half-Life 2 was right before the release date.
Within a space of just a few hours, when we started seeing screenshots of our game show up online and even source code for the game engine itself.
So at this point we're like, okay, we've been compromised. We all have to get new credit cards and that sort of thing. And then they posted the source code. It sort of said, ah, ha, 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 whatever it is that they were saying. And the bottom just fell out. Everybody at the company was completely freaked out.
This crippled everyone's workflow, and the game would be delayed for an entire year. Meanwhile, the German hacker would get arrested and put on 3 years of probation. But eventually, Valve picked up their pace, and finally got the game released on November 16th, 2004. The trial and error finally paid off. From the creation of an entirely new engine, to the cycle of unfinished ideas, to the source code leak, Half-Life 2 is finally out to the public. First reactions? Well, see for yourself. Half-Life 2 blew up in the gaming scene, being very different from a lot of the games you'd see beforehand. Valve made levels that were heavily based on all the properties objects had, whether it was a simple seesaw puzzle or destroying wooden supports to kill an enemy. Valve level design added to the praise. Not only did Half-Life 2 have innovations in level design, but innovations in plot and characters. In my opinion, Half-Life 2 paved the paths for other games because of its innovations. So the story of both Half-Life and Half-Life 2 is a hefty one, but the game still manages to capture that sense of attention to how smartly they hide things. Valve made a story that showed, but didn't tell. Subtle hints and clues that Valve puts into Half-Life 2 add to the game, and it's why it deserves such a video as this. It's also why there's such a strong community behind it too. Now, one thing that Half-Life 2 excels at is mods. The modding community, in my opinion, is probably the majority of the life behind the game. On ModDB, Half-Life and Half-Life 2 are still some of the most used games for mods, and reasonably so. Both games allow anybody to use the Hammer Editor, a tool in which you have almost full control of Source and its engine to make whatever your heart desires. With these tools, people have made their own full expansions to the Half-Life universe, or their own little game. In some cases too, Half-Life 2 mods have gone big and turned even into their own games, including the Stanley Parable and the infamous Gary's mod. You know, mod in the name. Or Black Mesa, a full-on Half-Life remake that has gotten its own spot on the Steam page. It really is interesting though, seeing just how many games have turned out big due to plentiful amount of tools given to the community. We also have to give credit to the fact that Half-Life 2 hasn't only affected mods, but games in general. Whether you like it or not, Steam is one of the biggest game launchers of all time, and it wouldn't have existed without Half-Life 2. With the amount of innovation that Half-Life 2 spearheaded, it set almost rules for other game devs to follow in order to make good games. A lot of AAA studios still can't wrap this fact around their heads, and still decide to stick to the same old formulas. I'm hoping that devs continue to make experimental decisions, because at the end of the day, it all just works. For Half-Life 1, it worked. For Half-Life 2, it worked. For all the games of the years, it worked. And for something that led this change of pace from formulaic to experimental, I'm hoping Half-Life 2 can be remembered. Making this video lets me know I've done my part to preserve some of history's best games. Consider buying both of them and playing them. They're classics that you just kind of need to play in order to understand how games are made. If I ever intrigued you at all to get into these classics, I guess I can consider my job well done, and yours too by watching this video. Once again, I thank you guys so much for watching, and if you enjoy any of my videos, consider giving a like, or maybe even subscribing. I'll be on the grind for new videos as frequently as I can, and don't be scared to suggest whatever. I'll be doing polls and such to let you guys have a bit of control of what I do here. But anyways, I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.